The ballroom glowed like a warm night sky. Soft music floated from a string quartet. Crystal lights hung over silk tablecloths. People in black ties and long dresses laughed at the door. The charity banners showed smiling faces and the words, "Health for every home." Aurelia Rowan arrived without noise or fuss. She wore a simple navy dress and a small pearl pin. Her hair was silver, neat, and soft around her face. She liked to check the little things: the name cards, the donation box, the volunteers' water. At the entrance, a young intern looked pale. She had lost her badge and was about to cry. Aurelia slipped off her own badge and put it in the girl's hand. "Take mine," she said. "You'll be okay." The girl blinked, grateful. "Thank you." Aurelia smiled and stepped toward the check-in table. She knew many of the donors by story but not by face. They knew her foundation. Few knew her. That was by design. The night was not about her. It was about the people the clinic served. Eloan Keene stood near the guest list with a clipboard. Her dress was sharp. Her makeup was perfect. She had been working on tonight for weeks. She wanted everything to feel elite and polished. She wanted the right people to see her as someone who belonged. When she saw Aurelia walking in alone, without a badge, without a fuss, Eloan's chest tightened. The older woman did not look like a member. She did not look like someone important. Eloan felt eyes on her from a pair of donors at the bar. She felt a rush of heat and fear in her neck. She needed to show control. "Excuse me," she said, stepping in front of Aurelia. "This is a private event. Members only." Aurelia stopped. Her face was calm. "I understand," she said. "I'm here to help with a few things." Eloan lifted her chin. "Who invited you?" "I believe I'm on the list," Aurelia said. She spoke gently, not to embarrass anyone. The intern at the table looked more nervous. Her fingers shook over the names. Eloan did not check the list. She could feel the donor's eyes again. She imagined whispers. Why is she letting anyone walk in? Doesn't she know the rules? The fear turned sharp. She made it into power. "How did this old woman get in here?" she said, loud enough to carry. "She's not a member. Call the owner." The air changed. A few people turned their heads. The intern froze. The string quartet kept playing, but the melody felt tight. Orion Sinclair, the host and general manager, heard the raised voice. He crossed the floor with steady steps. He did not hurry. He did not scold. He looked at Aurelia first, then at Eloan, then at the staff. "Is there a problem?" he asked. Eloan stood straighter. "Yes. This woman is not on the list. We have standards." Aurelia's eyes went to the intern. "It's all right," she said softly, more to the girl than to Eloan. "No one is in trouble." Orion took in the scene. He knew every face on the core team. He knew who paid the bills, who stayed late, who swept the floor after the lights went out. He gave a small nod to the security guard to stay where he was. Then he spoke in a calm voice that reached the edge of the room. "Ma'am," he said to Eloan, "this is the owner." The words landed like a bell. A low ring through crystal and chatter. The donors at the bar fell silent. The intern's mouth opened. Eloan stopped moving. All the heat in her face collapsed into cold. Aurelia did not look proud or angry. She looked steady. She gave Orion a grateful look, then turned to the volunteers. "Thank you," she said. "Let's keep the line moving. Everyone is welcome who is here to serve." She stepped aside so guests could pass. She asked the caterer if the soup was staying hot. She checked that the silent auction cards had pens that wrote well. She asked the quartet if they needed a break. Her presence calmed the staff. The room's hum returned, softer at first, then normal again. Eloan kept her back straight, but her hands trembled around the clipboard. She felt 1,000 eyes on her, even if that was not true. She tried to speak, but the words tangled. She swallowed them. Her gaze flicked across the room and landed on a familiar face. Caspian Rowan, Aurelia's son, her fiancé. He stood near the far table, speaking with a doctor in a navy suit. He did not seem to have seen what happened. Relief and dread fought inside her. She told herself it was a mistake. She told herself the older woman should have said her name. She told herself she was only protecting the event. The words felt thin. Her chest ached anyway. Orion moved closer, his voice low. "Ms. Keene," he said, not unkind. "Please join me for a moment." Eloan nodded, but he did not lead her away. He stood with her at the edge of the entrance and helped the intern greet guests until the line eased. His calm rubbed off on the girl. It did not reach Eloan. Her ears still rang with the word owner. Across the room, Aurelia paused by the donation tracker. She watched the numbers climb as people checked in. She saw a volunteer's shoe untie and bent to fix it with a laughing comment that made the woman's eyes shine. She moved like water around rocks, quiet, patient, shaping the flow. Caspian finally saw his mother and lifted a hand. Aurelia smiled and nodded, but did not call him over. This was not the moment for family talk. This was a night for the mission. She turned back to the door, to Aloan, to the place where something hard had just cracked open. When the entry rush finished, Orion stepped between the two women with the care of a man placing a delicate glass on a table. "Aurelia," he said softly, "would you like me to arrange a room?" "Later," Aurelia said. Her voice was warm, but firm. "The program comes first." She looked at Aloan then. Not with triumph. Not with anger. With a steady, human gaze that said, "I saw what happened. I will not make a scene. We will speak in private." Aloan could only nod. A small sound left her throat, half apology, half fear. She did not know what she feared more, the whispering crowd or the quiet talk to come. The quartet shifted to a brighter piece. Staff lit the last candles. The MC tested the microphone. The first toast was minutes away. Guests took their seats, laughing again, glad to be seen. The shame in the entryway drifted like smoke and thinned, but it did not vanish. It followed Aloan like a shadow to her place card. Aurelia stood near the stage and took a breath. She touched the pearl pin at her collar, a small habit when she needed balance. She glanced toward the boardroom door at the end of the hall. Not yet, she told herself. After the first course. After the welcome. There is a right time for hard truths. Orion checked his watch and gave a tiny cue. Lights softened. The MC walked out. The evening, shaken but intact, began. At the back of the room, the young intern looked at the badge on her chest, the one Aurelia had given her. She smiled without meaning to. She straightened her shoulders and greeted the next late guest with a bright, brave voice. At the front of the room, Aurelia kept her eyes on the purpose that brought everyone here. But she did not forget the doorway. She did not forget the words. She did not forget the face of the woman who said them. There would be a small room later. There would be a door that closed with a soft click. There would be a conversation that did not run from shame, but faced it. For now, the gala moved forward, and the owner chose grace. The first toast ended, and the clink of glasses faded. Laughter rose and fell like small waves. Aurelia waited until the servers carried out the soup. Then she gave Orion a quiet nod. He understood at once. He spoke to a staff member, then returned. "The small boardroom is free," he said. "It's quiet. No one will disturb you." Aurelia thanked him. She walked to Aloan's table. Aloan sat very straight, eyes fixed on her spoon, as if the pale broth could hide her. When Aurelia stopped beside her, Aloan's hands tightened on the napkin. "Would you join me for a few minutes?" Aurelia asked in a soft voice. Aloan stood so quickly her chair scraped the floor. A few heads turned. Aurelia smiled at the table as if nothing were wrong. "We'll be right back," she said. They crossed the hall. The boardroom smelled of lemon and paper. A low lamp warmed the wood table. Through the wall you could hear the music like a heartbeat far away. Orion held the door and then stayed by it, a quiet witness. He did not take a seat. He made the room feel safe. Aurelia gestured to a chair. "Please," she said to Aloan. "Water? Tea?" "Water is fine," Aloan whispered. Her face was pale. The careful makeup could not hide the red at the edge of her eyes. She kept tugging her dress at the waist as if to hold herself together. Orion poured water and set the glass within easy reach. Aloan did not touch it. Aurelia sat across from her. She folded her hands. "I don't want a scene," she said. "Not in there and not here. I want to understand what happened at the door." Aloan looked at the table. "I was doing my job," she said in a thin voice. "The event is members only. People notice if we let standards slip." Aurelia nodded. "Who taught you that standards mean shaming someone in public?" Aloan flinched. She lifted her chin. "I didn't shame you. I didn't know who you were." "You didn't have to know," Aurelia said. She could have been anyone. A guest's mother. A volunteer. A woman with tired feet who wanted to sit for a minute. Our work is about opening doors, not closing them on people's faces. Aloan's mouth hardened, then trembled. "People judge me," she said. "You don't hear them, but I do. They watch how I stand. How I speak. If I make one mistake, they ask who invited me. They ask what I'm doing here." Aurelia was quiet for a breath. "And that fear," she said, "made you pass the judgment on to someone else." Aloan's eyes filled. She pressed her fingertips to her temples. I wanted to look strong, she said. I thought if I showed control, they would stop looking for cracks. We all want to look strong, Aurelia said. Real strength is how we treat the person who seems small. The words hung in the warm air. Eloane stared at the water glass. She finally took a sip. Her hands shook. The glass clicked against her teeth. There was a soft knock. Orion opened the door a little. Caspian stood there, worry in his eyes. He had untied his bow tie without noticing. Is now a bad time? He asked. Aurelia looked at Eloane. Would you like him to join us? She asked. Eloane's throat moved. She nodded once. Caspian stepped in. He closed the door and stood near the end of the table, not choosing a side. His voice was gentle. I heard something happened, he said. I didn't want to guess. I wanted to ask. Eloane spoke first, fast and small. I made a mistake, she said. At the door. I spoke badly. I'm sorry. Caspian's shoulders lowered a little with relief at the apology. He looked at his mother. Aurelia kept her eyes on Eloane. Thank you for saying that, she said. But I don't want a quick apology that ends here and changes nothing. I want truth. I want repair. Eloane swallowed. She looked at Caspian, then back at Aurelia. I felt scared, she said. Not of you. Of them. The donors. The ones who come to be seen. I felt like a child again, pushing my way through doors that say staff only, hoping no one would notice me. I didn't want to be that girl tonight. Caspian moved closer, slow. You don't have to pretend with us, he said. Eloane let out a laugh that wasn't a laugh. Pretend is how I got here, she said. Every room I enter, I change a piece of myself. My voice. My clothes. My stories. She pressed her palms flat on the wood. If I stop changing, will the doors still open? Aurelia's gaze softened, but she did not step away from the hard part. If the door only opens when you step on someone else, she said, it's the wrong door. Silence again. The far music hummed. Orion checked his watch and then looked up, waiting for a cue that did not come. He kept the halo of calm around the room. Aurelia reached into her bag. She took out a slim leather folder. It was neat and careful, with tabs and a small gold clip. She laid it on the table and rested her hand on it. I brought this for board notes, she said. There is something inside I want to show you both. But I will only open it if we agree to talk without pride and without fear. Eloane wiped her eyes. I'm listening, she said. Caspian nodded. Me too. Good, Aurelia said. She spoke in the same tone she used with young staff and old donors, a tone that said we are equal in this room. Here are my rules. We do not raise our voices. We do not use shame to win. We tell the whole story, even the parts that make us feel small. When we are done, we choose what repair looks like. Not punishment. Repair. Eloane's shoulders eased a little. I can do that, she said. Her voice was rough but steady. Caspian pulled out a chair and sat, finally choosing. So can I, he said. Aurelia nodded once. She opened the folder a finger's width and then closed it again, as if testing her own readiness. Her hand lingered on the cover. The letters pressed into the leather were small and simple. A.R. Eloane glanced at the letters and frowned, not yet understanding. She looked back at Aurelia. May I say one more thing? She asked. Please, Aurelia said. I am sorry, Eloane said, and this time the words came from somewhere true. Not because you are the owner. Because you are a person. I forgot that for a moment. I won't forget again. Aurelia's mouth curved, not quite a smile. Thank you, she said. That matters. From the ballroom came a swell of applause as the MC finished a joke. The sound rose, then faded like a breath. Aurelia lifted the folder. Then we begin, she said, and the room felt smaller and more honest, as if the walls had moved in to listen. You said. Aurelia opened the folder. Inside were neat papers in plastic sleeves. She slid one across the table. It was an old application, a little faded, with a school photo clipped to the top. A teenage girl stared back with tired eyes and a brave mouth. Eloane leaned in. Her breath caught. The name at the top was hers. Aurelia touched a corner of the page. Years ago, she said, our foundation ran a small program for first-generation students. Quiet scholarships. No big speeches. We used simple initials to keep donors and students safe from attention. She tapped the signature line at the bottom. This one was signed by A.R. Eloane's eyes moved to the initials. Her voice was a whisper. A.R. Aurelia Rowan, Aurelia said gently. Me. Eloane sank back. She covered her mouth with her hand like she could hold the sound inside. A small, broken laugh slipped out anyway. I wrote this, she said. I remember the night. The kitchen light. The cheap pen that kept skipping. Her hand slid to the photo. I remember her. Caspian's eyes went wide. He looked at his mother, then at Aloan, then at the page. You never told me, he said softly. I didn't tell anyone, Aloan said. The award letter said it was private. And later I wanted to be someone who never needed help. Aurelia nodded. I kept your letter, she said, and took out another sheet. The handwriting was younger, careful, full of small hope. Thank you for believing in me when no one did. I will not waste this chance. The words were simple and fierce. Aloan reached for the letter with both hands. Her fingers shook. I was so certain back then, she said. So hungry. I promised to be good. I promised to be kind. And tonight, she could not finish. She lowered her head. No one spoke for a few heartbeats. The music outside seemed farther away now, like a tide turning. Orion, still by the door, shifted his weight and then stilled again. He understood the weight of this room. He let the silence be a bridge, not a wall. Aurelia broke it with care. Aloan, she said, I am not here to shame you. I am here because that girl in the photo and the woman at the door are the same person. Both are you. One was hurt by doors that closed. The other learned to close them first. I would like us to stop that circle. Aloan wiped her face with the edge of her napkin. I wanted to protect myself, she whispered. If I kept control, I would not be humiliated. That was the idea in my head. But I made someone else small to feel less small. I hear myself now. It is ugly. It is human, Aurelia said. And it can change. Caspian took Aloan's hand. He did it slowly, asking with his eyes. She let him. He turned to his mother. What do we do? He asked. Not to punish. To repair, like you said. Aurelia breathed in and out. Her voice stayed even. First, we name what happened. Then we set steps that build new habits. She counted on her fingers, making each point simple. 1. Apologies to the people you hurt or scared tonight. Not just me. The intern. The volunteers at the door. Security. Orion will help list names, and you will speak to them in person tomorrow. No excuses. No ifs. Aloan nodded, eyes wet again. Yes. 2. Service, Aurelia said. Once a week at our community clinic for 6 months. Intake desk, pharmacy counter, waiting room. No cameras. No posts. Learn the names of the patients who do not look like donors. Remember who we serve. Yes, Aloan said. I can do that. 3. Counseling, Aurelia said. With Dr. Celine Quill. She knows class shame. She knows how fear dresses up as control. You will go together with Caspian sometimes and alone other times. You will talk about power, anger, and safety. Caspian answered. We'll go. 4. Aurelia said. We pause the engagement. Not forever. For clarity. We can keep loving each other and also take time to grow. A date on the calendar is not a measure of devotion. Aloan's shoulders sagged, not with defeat but with release. Thank you for not ending it, she said to Aurelia. Thank you for not inflating it either. 5. Aurelia said. We write a clear prenup. It protects Caspian. It protects you. It keeps the foundation, the venue, and our donors far from personal branding or influence deals. If people try to buy their way into our family through you, the paper will say no. Aloan stared at the table. Then she lifted her head. I will ask the lawyer to start it, she said. I want to be the one to say yes to that. Aurelia looked at her a long moment, then gave a small, real smile. Good. Aloan turned to Caspian. I am sorry, she said. Not for how it made us look. For how it made me act. You love your mother. I do too, in my own way, or I would not care so much about belonging to her world. I will earn it by being decent, not loud. Caspian squeezed her hand. I want a life with you that we are proud of in small rooms, he said. Not just in big ones. Aurelia put the papers back in their sleeves. She left the letter on the table for one more breath, as if giving it air. Then she slid it in as well and closed the folder with a soft click. The initials AR caught the lamplight. There is one more thing, she said. Tonight's speech. I will not mention this incident, but I will name the people at the door and in the kitchen as the first faces of grace. If you wish, you can stand with me after and greet guests. You will not hide. You will practice welcome. Aloan looked scared and grateful at the same time. I will stand with you, she said. And when the night is over, I will start the list of apologies. Orion finally spoke, low and steady. "I will have the names for you by morning," he said. "And I will tell the team to expect you." "Thank you," Aurelia said. They rose. The room seemed lighter. Not fixed, not perfect, just honest. Aloan touched the folder once, like a promise, and then let her hand fall. At the door, Aurelia paused. "One last question," she said to Aloan. "Who gave you your first real welcome?" Aloan thought of a school secretary who stayed late to help her fill forms. Of a neighbor who watched her little brother so she could study. Of a teacher who kept a spare sweater in a drawer for students who were cold. "A few people," she said, voice soft. "People who never asked for anything back." "Good," Aurelia said. "Borrow their way. Give it to the next person." They stepped into the hall. The music swelled again. The light from the ballroom spilled toward them like morning. Aloan took a long breath, then another. She did not feel smaller. She felt exact. "Ready?" Caspian asked. "No," Aloan said, and then she smiled a little. "But I am willing." "That is enough," Aurelia said. They walked together toward the stage, not as a perfect family, but as people who had chosen the same door. The months that followed were steady and clean, like careful stitches on a torn seam. Every Wednesday after work, Aloan went to the clinic. She signed in at the intake desk, tied her hair back, and learned the small things that matter. How to spell names that had many ways to be spelled, how to ask about pain without making someone feel small, how to listen when a person did not want to be a story. She brought tea bags and a spare phone charger to keep in the drawer. She learned where the tissues were and how to make a child laugh with a paper glove that looked like a chicken. At first, people looked at her dress and her careful makeup. By week 3, they looked at her eyes. By week 6, the pharmacist called, "Aloan, can you check insurance on room 4? As if she had always been there. She wrote down the names of the regulars in a little notebook. Mr. Rafi with the quiet cough, the twins who hated shots, the grandma who always brought mango candy. She went home tired and simple, the good kind of tired that comes from being useful. On Saturdays, she met Dr. Celine Quill in a small office with a soft green rug. The counseling felt strange at first. Aloan did not like talking about the past. Dr. Quill did not force anything. She asked gentle questions that were somehow strong. "When you felt judged at the door," she said, "what age were you on the inside?" Aloan surprised herself when she answered, 16. They talked about fear that dresses up as rules. They made plans for small repairs. Pause before speaking, breathe in for 4 counts, out for 6. Ask, "What would welcome look like here?" before she set a boundary. Some sessions, Caspian came. They practiced saying hard things without knives in their voices. He learned to say, "I feel worried when image matters more than kindness." She learned to say, "I feel safe when we make plans in daylight." They spoke about money and work and family. They laughed sometimes, too, which felt like finding a window in a room that had seemed airless. The day they told Aurelia they wished to pause the engagement papers, they did it together at the kitchen table. No drama, just a calendar moved. "We want to be ready in ourselves," Caspian said. "Not just on a date." Aurelia pressed their hands and said, "That is love with a spine." Aloan wrote the apology notes and delivered them in person the next morning after the gala. The intern hugged her and said, "I kept the badge. I'm framing it." Security shook her hand and said, "We're good." Orion listened, nodded once, and said, "Thank you for not hiding." It was not a performance. It was repair, one face at a time. Then came paperwork. Aloan called the lawyer and asked to start the prenup. She used plain words. "I want it to protect both of us and to keep the foundation away from our personal deals." Signing it later felt like washing her hands before cooking. Clean. Sensible. She felt lighter. Spring turned to early summer. The clinic grew busier. Aloan learned to say, "I don't know, but I'll find out," and people trusted her more for it. She kept seeing Dr. Quill. One day, she came in holding a small box. Inside lay a glossy invitation card. On it, in simple print, was the next gala's theme, open doors. "I asked if we could call it that," Aloan said, cheeks warm. Aurelia said yes. "And what will open doors do?" Dr. Quill asked. "It will fund entry costs that stop people before they start," Aloan said. "Exam fees, uniforms, ID cards, bus passes, all the small locks on big futures." She paused. "I want to co-chair it. Not because my name helps the brand. Because it keeps me honest." The night of the new gala arrived with a soft wind and a sky the color of clean slate. Lamps glowed along the path. The quartet tuned. Volunteers set out water like a river of glass. Aurelia stood at the entrance for a while, then moved inside to greet donors. Orion watched the door with his easy gaze. Eloan took her place at check-in. She wore a simple dress and flat shoes. She kept her face open. Each guest felt like a person, not a test. When an older woman came up, digging in her purse with a shaky hand, Eloan saw the panic before the words. "I can't find my badge," the woman said, breath quick. Eloan did not let the fear grow. She took off her own badge and set it gently in the woman's palm. "Take mine," she said. "You're okay." The woman looked up, surprised, then smiled so big it made Eloan's throat ache. Orion saw the exchange and gave the smallest nod, as if to say, that is the work. Later, during the program, Aurelia kept her speech short again. She spoke about hands at doors and hands in kitchens. She named the people who make welcome feel like oxygen. Then she said, "Tonight, someone else will speak for a minute." She looked toward Eloan. Eloan felt her heart beat in her throat. She had written and torn up 3 scripts. She had chosen simple words in the end. She stepped up, held the sides of the lectern, and did not hide. "I grew up far from rooms like this," she said. "A scholarship with the initials AR once opened a door for me. I walked through it. I forgot, for a while, how to hold the door for the next person. This year, I learned again." She did not mention the incident. She did not need to. Open doors will help with the small costs that stop people before they start. If that was you once, or someone you love, I invite you to help me hold this door. The room was quiet in the good way. Then the applause rose, warm, not wild. People stood. Some nodded with wet eyes. The donation board flickered, and then climbed in steady jumps. Caspian watched from the side, both proud and soft. Aurelia stood with her hands joined, head bowed for a breath, like a thank you. After the speeches, Eloan moved to the entry again. She shook hands. She said, "Welcome," and meant it every time. The intern from last year, now a staffer with a new blazer and a grin, worked beside her like a swift bird. "You're fast," Eloan said. "You taught me," the young woman answered. Near the end of the night, a man in work boots stepped up, hat in hand. He looked down at the floor. "I'm just here to pick up my wife," he said, almost apologizing. "She's volunteering in the kitchen." "Then your family tonight," Eloan said, moving aside the rope. "Come warm up while you wait." She brought him tea and pointed him to a chair with a good view of the door. The man's shoulders lowered. A small thing. A real thing. When the last guests left and the lights came gentle, Eloan found Aurelia in the quiet just off the ballroom. They stood by a stack of folded tablecloths, the air smelling of lemon and wax. "You held the door," Aurelia said. "I learned from the best," Eloan said. It was not flattery. It was fact. Caspian joined them with 3 paper cups of mint tea. They leaned against the wall, shoes off, heels dangling from 2 fingers. Orion passed by with a clipboard, paused, and gave a little salute with his pen. "Record night," he said. "Open Doors is funded for 2 years." Eloan closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, she looked at Caspian. "I'm ready to put the date back on the calendar," she said. "Not because of tonight. Because of the weeks that came before it. Because of who we are in small rooms." Caspian nodded, smile quiet and sure. "Then we'll set a simple day," he said. "Family. Clinic friends. The people who open doors." Aurelia squeezed their hands, one and then the other. "We move forward," she said, with quiet pride. Outside, a breeze lifted the last of the laughter and carried it down the steps. Inside, the 3 of them stood together, not perfect, not finished, but right. The night had begun with shame and rules. It ended with tea, soft shoes, and open doors.